I've spent years watching people try to organize their homes, and I've noticed something surprising. The advice most professionals give seniors is often wrong, not because it doesn't work, but because it wasn't designed for this stage of life. There are 7 secrets that rarely get mentioned, and they completely change how decluttering feels. If you're someone who wants a lighter home without the overwhelm, this channel shares calm, practical wisdom like this every week. Subscribing means you won't have to search anymore. Guidance will simply arrive when you need it. I'm glad you're here. Let's begin. Professional organizers know things that never make it into their public advice. Today you'll discover 7 hidden strategies that make decluttering effortless at any age, why traditional organizing methods often fail seniors and what works instead, and one profound shift in thinking that transforms entire homes. Start with what feels easiest, not what looks worst. Most advice says start with the messiest room. But professionals know that's backwards for this stage of life. The real strategy is to begin with whatever feels lightest, a single drawer, a nightstand, or one shelf. Success creates momentum. Overwhelm creates avoidance. When the first space feels calm, the next one becomes easier. The messiest room can wait, it always does. Early wins build confidence. Confidence makes bigger decisions possible. This is something organizers understand deeply but rarely emphasize because it doesn't sound dramatic enough for popular advice. They know that forcing someone to tackle their most chaotic space first often leads to abandonment of the entire project. Instead, they privately guide clients towards small, manageable victories. Think about it this way. A junk drawer might hold 20 items. Sorting through it takes 10 minutes and creates immediate visual relief. A garage filled with decades of accumulated belongings might take weeks and feel overwhelming before any progress is visible. Which one builds the belief that change is possible? The answer is obvious. This approach respects where you are right now. It acknowledges that energy and decision-making capacity vary from day to day. Some mornings, tackling a whole closet feels possible. Other days, organizing a medicine cabinet is enough. Both count as progress. Both create the momentum that eventually leads to larger transformations. What makes this secret powerful is how it removes judgment. There's no right or wrong starting point. There's only what feels manageable today. A bathroom drawer, a section of bookshelf, the top of a dresser. Any of these can be the beginning. The key is choosing something that can be completed in one sitting, so you finish with a sense of accomplishment rather than exhaustion. Professional organizers see this pattern repeatedly. Clients who start small continue, clients who start big often stop. It's not about ambition or capability, it's about honoring the reality of how human motivation actually works. Small successes compound. They build trust in your own ability to create change. They prove that a lighter home is possible without heroic effort. This first secret sets the foundation for everything that follows. Each of the remaining 6 secrets builds on this principle of gentleness and respect for your own pace. By the time you reach secret 7, you'll understand why this approach works when traditional methods fail. For now, just remember this. Start where it feels light, not where it looks heavy. Secret 2. Ignore the 1-year rule. If you haven't used it in a year, let it go. This rule doesn't honor experience. At this stage of life, some items hold meaning beyond frequency of use, and that's completely valid. The better question isn't, when did I last use this? It's, does this still support the life I want to live today? Meaning matters more than metrics. A book unread for 5 years might still bring comfort. A tool unused might be saved for the right moment. A piece of clothing never worn could represent hope or possibility. Professionals privately acknowledge this. They just don't say it publicly because it doesn't fit the formula that sells organizing courses and television shows. The 1-year rule works well for office supplies and kitchen gadgets. It fails miserably for items connected to identity, memory, or aspiration. A fishing rod unused for 3 years might represent weekend plans that haven't happened yet, but still matter. A craft supply collection might be waiting for the right project. These things aren't clutter just because they're dormant. What organizers know but rarely advertise is that letting go too quickly can create regret, and regret makes people stop decluttering entirely. It's better to keep something a bit longer than necessary than to release it prematurely and lose trust in your own judgment. This is especially true for items connected to people who have passed away or life chapters that feel important to remember. The question that works better is simple. Does this item support who I am now and the life I'm living today? Not who I was 10 years ago? Not who I might become someday? Who I am right now? This removes the timeline pressure and focuses on relevance. A formal dress might be unused but still valued if you attend special events occasionally. A set of weights might sit idle but matter if you plan to use them again. This approach also honors seasonal and cyclical use. Gardening tools sit unused for months. Holiday decorations stay boxed most of the year. Camping equipment waits for warm weather. None of these are clutter just because they're not in constant rotation. The one-year rule would eliminate things that genuinely serve their purpose, just not continuously. What makes this secret liberating is the permission it grants. You don't have to justify keeping something by proving frequent use. You only need to honestly assess whether it fits your current reality. This removes guilt and replaces it with clarity. Some things stay, some things go. The decision is based on support, not statistics. Professional organizers adjust their approach based on the client in front of them. They know that rigid rules help some people and harm others. For seniors especially, forcing artificial timelines often backfires. Life experience has taught that some things are worth keeping even when they're not actively used. This wisdom deserves respect, not dismissal. Secret 3. Create decision-free zones. Every object in a home asks a question. Do I stay or go? Too many questions create exhaustion. The secret is to designate spaces where no decisions are required. A memory box, a shelf of treasures, a corner that's simply allowed to be. Not everything needs to be sorted. Some things just need permission to exist. Decision fatigue is real. Every choice, no matter how small, requires mental energy. When you're constantly evaluating whether to keep or release items, that energy depletes quickly. The result is paralysis. Nothing gets decided because deciding anything feels too hard. This is where most decluttering efforts stall, not from lack of desire but from cognitive overload. Professional organizers understand this deeply. They know that creating protected spaces actually accelerates progress in other areas. When you designate one shelf or one box where items can live without constant evaluation, the pressure releases. Your mind stops treating the entire home as a battlefield of decisions. Instead, you have sanctuaries of stillness alongside areas of active change. Think of it like a nature preserve within a developed area. Not everything needs to be optimized or organized. Some spaces can simply exist as they are, holding things that matter without justification. A memory box filled with cards, photos, and small treasures doesn't need to be sorted. A shelf of collectibles doesn't need to be rationalized. These items earn their place by meaning alone. This approach prevents the all-or-nothing thinking that derails decluttering. People often believe that if they start organizing, they must address everything. This feels overwhelming, so they don't start at all. Decision-free zones solve this by creating boundaries. You're not ignoring these areas. You're consciously choosing to let them be, which is different and far more powerful. What makes this secret particularly effective is how it honors attachment without creating shame. Attachment to objects is natural and human. Some things connect to people, places, or versions of yourself that deserve acknowledgement. Designating a protected space for these items says, yes, these matter, and that's enough. No further analysis required. Organizers use this strategy with almost every client, but it's rarely mentioned in mainstream advice because it sounds like permission to keep clutter. It's not. It's strategic preservation of meaning while clearing space elsewhere. The items in decision-free zones aren't clutter. They're consciously chosen keepsakes that have earned permanent residence. The practical implementation is simple. Choose one container or one dedicated space. Label it mentally as protected. Place items there that carry emotional weight but don't serve daily function. Then move forward with organizing other areas, knowing these treasures are safe. The relief this creates is immediate and profound. This secret also evolves over time. What goes into a decision-free zone today might naturally leave it later, or it might stay forever. Both outcomes are fine. The point isn't to eventually sort everything. The point is to create a home that breathes, with spaces of activity and spaces of rest, spaces of change and spaces of permanence. Secret 4. The goodbye box method. Letting go instantly feels impossible for many people. Professionals use a gentler approach they rarely advertise: the goodbye box. Items that might be released go into a box, sealed and dated. 6 months later, if nothing inside was missed, it's donated unopened. This removes the pressure of permanent decisions. It honors hesitation without creating paralysis. Most items in a goodbye box are never opened again, which reveals a quiet truth. The box simply provided permission to acknowledge that reality gradually rather than all at once. This method appears simple, but its impact is profound. Here's what makes it work. The act of putting something in the box is itself a form of release. You're not committing to letting it go forever. You're committing to not needing it right now. That distinction matters enormously. It lowers resistance and makes the initial sorting process easier. You can place items in the box without the finality that creates regret. Professional organizers see this pattern constantly. Clients agonize over whether to keep or donate a particular item. The internal debate can last 20 minutes for a single object. The goodbye box eliminates this debate by creating a middle ground. Maybe becomes the answer, and maybe turns out to be no most of the time without the emotional cost of immediate decision. The 6-month timeline is intentional. It's long enough to cover multiple seasons and life situations. If you haven't needed something through summer, fall, and winter, you probably won't need it at all. It's also long enough to forget what's actually in the box. When you finally open it or donate it unopened, the items no longer carry the same emotional charge they did initially. What surprises people most is how rarely they think about the box once it's sealed. The items that felt important enough to agonize over often disappear from mind entirely. This reveals something important about attachment. Sometimes we're attached to the idea of needing something more than the actual thing itself. The goodbye box tests that attachment without forcing immediate resolution. This method works especially well for clothing, books, kitchen items, and hobby supplies. Things that might be useful someday, but aren't useful today. The box holds possibility without taking up active living space. After 6 months, possibility either becomes reality or it quietly dissolves. Either way, clarity emerges without pressure. There's also unexpected freedom in the rule about donating unopened. If you haven't opened the box in 6 months, that's all the information you need. You don't need to re-examine each item. You don't need to second guess. The time that passed already made the decision for you. This prevents the common mistake of taking everything back out and restarting the entire debate. Professional organizers emphasize one important guideline: only one goodbye box at a time. Multiple boxes defeat the purpose by becoming long-term storage rather than temporary evaluation. One box forces prioritization and prevents the method from turning into procrastination. Secret 5. Clear surfaces, not closets. Closets hold clutter. Surfaces create calm. Organizers know this. Visible space impacts mood more than hidden storage. One clear countertop brings more peace than 3 organized closets. The secret is to focus on what's seen daily. Nightstands, kitchen counters, entryway tables. Hidden spaces can wait. The mind responds to what it sees. A single clear surface signals order even if everything else remains untouched. This isn't about ignoring hidden mess. It's about understanding that visual calm has disproportionate impact on well-being. When you walk into a room and see clear open surfaces, your nervous system registers safety and control. When you see piles and clutter, it registers unfinished business and stress. Professional organizers start with surfaces for precisely this reason. The transformation is immediate and visible. A client can clear a kitchen counter in 30 minutes and feel the difference instantly. Organizing a closet might take 3 hours and produce no visible change in how the home feels. Which one creates motivation to continue? The answer shapes the entire organizing strategy. This approach also respects daily interaction patterns. You see and use countertops constantly. You open closets occasionally. Your emotional relationship with your space is built primarily on what you encounter regularly, not what's hidden behind doors. Focusing on visible areas improves daily experience more efficiently than focusing on storage areas. Think about hotel rooms. They feel calm and spacious not because they lack hidden storage, but because surfaces are clear. One lamp, one clock, nothing else on the nightstand. Empty counters in the bathroom, clear desk surfaces. This isn't magic, it's intentional visual simplicity that creates psychological ease. The same principle applies at home. What makes this secret counterintuitive is that closets and storage areas often feel like the real problem. They're overflowing, they're disorganized, they seem to need attention first. But organizers know that tackling them first often leads to burnout without creating any noticeable improvement in how the home feels. The effort expended doesn't match the emotional return. Starting with surfaces creates a virtuous cycle. Clear counters make you want to keep them clear. That motivation extends to nearby areas. Soon you're maintaining not just one clear surface, but several. The calm compounds. Meanwhile, closets can be addressed later when energy and motivation are higher, built on the foundation of visible success. This doesn't mean closets don't matter. They do eventually. But sequencing matters more. Surface first, storage second, visible before hidden, daily use before occasional access. This ordering maximizes both psychological benefit and long-term sustainability. You're building habits based on what you see and experience most often. The practical application is simple. Choose one surface. Remove everything. Wipe it clean. Return only what truly belongs there and serves current needs. Keep it clear for 1 week. Notice how it feels to see that open space daily. That feeling becomes the motivation for addressing the next surface and then the next, until visible calm becomes the baseline. Secret 6. The one in, one out rule is a myth. For every new item, remove one old item. This sounds balanced, but it's exhausting to track. The real strategy professionals use is to create natural limits through designated spaces. One bookshelf, one drawer, one shelf for collections. When space fills, it's time to reconsider. No counting required. Limits feel easier than rules. A full shelf naturally signals this is enough. No guilt, no tracking, just clarity. This approach respects how people naturally think. We don't actually count our belongings in daily life. We notice when spaces feel crowded or comfortable. Working with that intuition instead of against it makes the entire process sustainable. The one in, one out rule creates artificial rigidity. It assumes all items have equal value and take equal space. A large book and a small book are not equivalent. A winter coat and a tank top don't occupy the same volume. Forcing a one-to-one exchange ignores these realities and turns organizing into mathematics rather than thoughtful curation. Professional organizers know that designated spaces work better because they're self-regulating. When a bookshelf is full, adding another book requires conscious choice. Remove something to make room, or acknowledge that the collection is complete as it stands. This happens organically without needing to remember rules or track exchanges. This strategy also prevents the trap of justifying purchases. With one in, one out, every new item requires finding something to eliminate. This can create resentment toward the system, or worse, prompt keeping new things without releasing old ones because finding something to remove feels too difficult. Designated spaces don't create this problem. They simply define capacity. Think about it practically. You have one closet for clothes. When it's full, you notice. Adding more means either expanding the space, which signals intentional choice to own more, or removing something which happens naturally when you can't fit anything else. The space itself manages the limit without requiring conscious enforcement of rules. What makes this particularly effective is how it removes moral judgment from accumulation. There's nothing wrong with acquiring new things. The question is simply whether your designated spaces accommodate them comfortably. If yes, great. If no, then something needs to shift, but that decision is prompted by physical reality rather than arbitrary rules. This also accommodates natural life changes. During certain periods, you might acquire more books or hobby supplies or clothing. Other times, you might pare down. Designated spaces flex with these changes while maintaining overall boundaries. The physical container stays constant even as contents evolve. Professional organizers implement this by helping clients define clear homes for categories. All books live on these 2 shelves. All craft supplies fit in these 3 bins. All kitchen gadgets fit in these 2 drawers. When spaces overflow, it's time for evaluation, but that evaluation is triggered by visible fullness rather than abstract counting. The relief this creates is significant. You're not policing yourself. You're not maintaining mental tallies. You're simply living within defined spaces that feel manageable. When those spaces stop feeling manageable, you adjust. It's responsive rather than restrictive, which makes it actually sustainable over time. Secret 7. The transformation isn't about less. It's about support. Here's what organizers rarely admit. Decluttering isn't really about having less. It's about designing a home that supports the life being lived today. Some people need more books. Others need clear counters. Some need memories visible. Others need them stored. There's no perfect number of belongings. There's only what serves this moment. This realization changes everything because it removes all judgment and replaces it with intention. You're no longer trying to achieve someone else's ideal of minimalism or organization. You're creating an environment that works for your specific needs, habits, energy levels, and preferences. This shifts the entire endeavor from should to what actually helps. When a home reflects current needs, not past ideals or future goals, it begins to feel like an ally. Rooms become easier to navigate. Mornings feel lighter. Decisions happen faster. The transformation isn't about perfection. It's about support. A home that supports you might look completely different from a home that supports your neighbor, and that's exactly how it should be. Professional organizers see this truth daily. They work with clients who have very different definitions of organized and comfortable. Some people thrive with minimal visual input and clear surfaces everywhere. Others feel most at ease surrounded by books, plants, collections, and evidence of their interests. Neither approach is wrong. Both can be organized. Both can be supportive. What matters is alignment between environment and life. If you read constantly, having extensive book storage isn't clutter, it's infrastructure. If you rarely cook, having minimal kitchen equipment isn't deprivation, it's appropriate sizing. If you love crafts, having dedicated supply storage isn't excess, it's enabling hobby practice. The items themselves are neutral. Context determines whether they support or hinder. This secret also acknowledges that needs change. What supported you 5 years ago might not serve you now. What you need today might be different next year. A supportive home evolves. It's not a finished project you complete once. It's a living system you adjust as your life shifts. This removes the pressure of getting it perfect and replaces it with permission to keep adapting. The question that guides everything becomes very simple. Does this space, as it currently exists, make my daily life easier or harder? Not is it magazine worthy, or does it match trends, or would others approve? Just does it help me or not? That clarity cuts through all the noise of competing advice and reveals what actually matters. Professional organizers guard this secret because it undermines the idea that there's one right way to organize. There isn't. There are principles that tend to work, like clear surfaces and designated spaces, but the application is always individual. Some seniors need more kitchen tools because they cook elaborate meals. Others need less because they prefer simple food. Both deserve homes that reflect those realities. This transforms decluttering from a chore into an act of self-care. You're not following external rules. You're creating internal alignment. You're removing what makes life harder and keeping what makes it easier. That might mean releasing half your belongings. It might mean keeping most of them, but arranging them differently. The outcome is less important than the feeling of being supported by your own space. Of these 7 secrets, which one surprised you most? Maybe it's the goodbye box. Maybe it's permission to keep things that matter. Or maybe it's realizing there's no right amount. Share in the comments. Your insight might help someone else today. And if you're wondering where to begin, the answer is always wherever feels lightest right now. There's no pressure to tackle everything at once. Even noticing which secret resonated is already a first step. Some of you might start with clearing one surface. Others might create a decision-free zone. A few might try the goodbye box method. All of these are progress. All of these count. What matters isn't the specific action, but the movement toward a home that feels supportive instead of overwhelming. These secrets work because they honor where you are right now, not where you think you should be. They remove judgment and replace it with gentleness. They prove that transformation doesn't require perfection. It just requires one small shift at a time. So which secret will you try first? Let us know below. We'd love to hear what speaks to you and why. At this stage of life, a home should support, not exhaust. These 7 secrets aren't about following rules. They're about creating space that feels like relief. If this brought clarity or comfort, consider subscribing to Simple Years. Gentle, practical wisdom is shared every week, so calm doesn't need to be searched for. It simply arrives. We cover topics like these regularly, always with the same philosophy: respect for your experience, permission to go at your own pace, recognition that there's no single right way to live, just what works for you right now. Subscribing means these insights will show up when you need them without any effort on your part. No searching, no algorithms to fight, just steady, reliable guidance delivered directly. We're building a community of people who believe homes should serve life, not the other way around. If that resonates with you, we'd be honored to have you here. Click that subscribe button and join us. Thank you for being here today. I'll see you in the next video.